Hello. Today I'm going to talk about the upcoming release of Jackrabbit version 2. I am going to be releasing this program as an alpha, simply because even though I have tested it aggressively, I have a certain amount of bias from working on it over the last year or so. And so I would normally not try something that would be first nature to somebody that isn't its developer. So the alpha step is going to help me improve and fix it even more. But the big point and takeaway that I have to make sure is that you only use this on a test account. Until I am sure it is reliable and stable, you should not use this with live money. And that really is one of the biggest things that is my greatest concern with Jackrabbit. It will manage your real money. So I need to make sure it is ready to do so. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about today, is the differences between version 1 and version 2, because there are a lot. Version 2 is a fundamental upgrade to version 1 on multiple levels. Most importantly, security. Now, I need to emphasize plainly and clearly, it is no substitute for your VPS firewall. Make sure your firewall is up and running properly, and it should be clearly tested on the basis of the IP list in your version 2 configuration. That is, whatever allowed IP addresses you have in your version 2 configuration file, you should have in your firewall. Take the extra steps for redundancy in your security. Needless to say, the market will be more than happy to rob you blind through unscrupulous behavior of hackers. We've already seen that over the last 6 months with some very serious hacks. And it's because of what I saw from logs of subscribers that I took the additional steps to really beef up security even more than it was. Thankfully, version 1 wasn't compromised, but there were a lot of lazy areas that really got tightened up quickly. First and foremost, the identity in version 2 is now required. Version 2 will not work without a global identity. It will also not work without a configured IP list. Both those were optional in version 1. They're not optional anymore. They need to be set up and configured, and the wiki goes through completely how to do that. And of course, as time gets closer to the release, I will be doing a video on how to install version 2 on your VPS. I did not use a container or Docker or some other fancy program. Jackrabbit has been written to use the VPS at its base level, root level. That may seem like a security compromise, but at the same time, as cheap and affordable as VPSs are, do not share a VPS between Jackrabbit Relay and any other program you are running. Relay should have its own separate VPS. It will run on a 1-core, but you really should have a 2-core. You need a minimum of 4 gigabytes of RAM just for stability and safety. You could squeeze 2 gigabytes, but it's going to be tight. and you need a minimum of 40 gigabytes of drive space, but it should be 80 just because of the ledger and logs. Those have also been updated and upgraded and are now more advanced. You can now track slippage and many other functions and features from the ledgers as well. Plus, information can be extracted from them to produce anything you need for tax purposes. So Relay is a major upgrade and overhaul to version 1. And that meant some sacrifices along the way. Those sacrifices are all of the extraneous programs that aren't directly connected to Relay. For example, Equilibrium, Procurator, those are both going to become separate repositories. Relay in and of itself has grown to the point that it now supports 120 different exchanges and brokerages, and that list is only going to grow over time. I wanted to focus this portion on just the server component of Relay, because it technically is now 3 different working servers that intercommunicate between each other. And those working components fit together to create the entire Relay server class. That is, it handles the transactions, processes them, has a special mechanism for limit orders, and there is an underlying server that runs in the background that makes sure everything is kept organized and sequential in response. File integrity is protected, which was one of version 1's biggest bugs. Under a heavy server load, there was a chance that files could be damaged and corrupted. That no longer exists, and it required a lot of rewriting to make sure that functionality stayed stable even under aggressive usage. Part of my testing pushed roughly 40,000 simulated orders through the system to ensure file corruption did not take place. And that is the testing that is going on now as I speak. I am pushing the system through large amounts of quality testing to ensure that it is ready. Much like version 1, these tests are meant to be extreme and aggressive. And I will be going over many of these tests in a separate video that you will be able to repeat yourself as a way of tracking down issues and finding bugs. And there are bugs, unfortunately. You can't have a program that has been a year or more in the making and not have bugs. Even though I have tried just about everything I can think of. That's really the point. I can't think of everything. So that's what the alpha stage is meant to do. To put it in your hands so that you can test it and break it. And then I could see what you did and fix it and make it more robust. One of the biggest downfalls of programming is the perfectionist's attitude. I could spend another 6 months tweaking, tuning, badgering, hunting, and get nothing accomplished because I'm looking for it to be perfect. That's not the reality of programming or life in general, really. Perfectionism is only a plague in that nothing gets actually released. At some point, I just have to take my chances and hope for the best. But because I've separated out everything the way I have, I've been able to control where to look for those bugs and also how they can be fixed when they occur. And that really is the biggest process that took the longest in rewriting version 2. If you followed my Learning Python series and you worked with the Oanda library that we built in that series, then you will see version 2 is not much different. In fact, it's very similar and was a blueprint for the Learning Python series. And that's really the second major change in version 2. I built it as much as I can to be a learning tool as well as a trading tool. Very often, open source projects become so big and so mind-boggling, they're not welcoming to new programmers wanting to contribute. I spent time thinking about that and tried to develop a layout that would be easy for a beginner or intermediate programmer to begin learning from and developing and adding to and contributing to the system. So version 2 is very much a real-time processor meant to be in full live trading and at the same time to be a component for you to learn from, to build your own trading approaches onto it, to learn programming. Now more than ever, it is critical that if you're going to use automated and algorithmic trading, that you understand what is really going on behind it, what is going on under the hood, and how does that really affect your trading. This last week has really opened the door to that concern more than I could have imagined when I made these decisions back in the beginning of drafting version 2 out. With the FTX exchange collapse, and now with the information of backdoors being built into the software to help its owner rob it blind and steal customers' money, understanding the transparency behind the code is even more apparent and critical now if you're going to automatically trade. There's nothing that can stop another FTX from happening, but by understanding the underlying principles, you at least will have the advantage of spotting red flags should they occur. They may not, but should they, you at least have the tools by learning the process, by understanding what should happen. It's my hope that version 2 will be the doorway to just that. More transparency within the automated trading market, and most importantly, more people willing to begin to understand just what the process is. It's not a magic black box that's going to make you rich overnight. It's a bridge between programs like TradingView or your own custom bot and your exchange and brokerage. There's no black magic in there. It's all science and mathematics. And even the mathematics really doesn't go above basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So you don't need a PhD to learn to program, to learn to use this program, or to learn to trade. You just need to have the willingness to want to really understand where your money is going and what's happening to it. So as we get closer and closer to the release of version 2, one of the biggest things is understand your own risks. Understand your own budget. And when you start testing version 2, don't use a live account. Use a demo account or a sandbox account or a testnet account. Test out everything thoroughly. Take your time setting it up, and most importantly, ask questions if you have them. I will be glad to answer any and all questions on the support server, on the GitHub issues system, so forth. So while you are waiting in anticipation, I will continue to release more information, and more videos will be coming on how to set up Jackrabbit Relay version 2. So, from there, until next time,